97 Talking Law. We are with Despina Priala from Priala Legal. If you have a legal question of any sort, just send it to us. Despina, happy to answer it for you on the radio here on a Thursday morning. Go to radio97.com.au. You'll find a couple of ways to get in contact with us there. Send us the question, and Despina, happy to do that for you in the next couple of weeks. radio97.com.au.
Thank you, Wayno. So this one, there was a photo that has kind of gone viral around the Gold Coast and I guess the tweet as well, of this woman in bed and the roof has collapsed on her.
Goodness.
Physically has come down on her bed while she was sleeping, I think it was, Desi. And now there's lawyers involved. The landlords are jumping in with what happened, what didn't happen. So, Despina, tell us about this case. What's going on?
Yeah, so I think this has got more attention because it's a rental property situation. And, you know, there's been stories over the last few months about rental crisis, accommodation crisis. Naturally, anything to do with a rental property is going to hit the headlines. But even if it wasn't, look, it's terrible, it's happened. But I think more people care about it because it's a rental property and there are many people renting properties. So they might be thinking, oh, could this happen to me? So I thought we would talk about it, and I think it only happened on the weekend or maybe a week ago.
Yeah.
But it was involving a rental property at Holywell, which is near our offices, near Runaway Bay and Paradise Point. Holywell actually sits in between those two areas. And when I looked at the pictures and when I read the story, it talked about the roof caving in. Now, when I say the roof, so the ceiling inside a property had dropped. And it fell on the person while they were sleeping, apparently in the middle of the night. Now, horrific, as you can imagine. And when we're talking about a ceiling, we're typically talking about plasterboards, which actually are quite heavy. Yes. And so how did this all come about and what's the big hoo-ha? Well, of course, the big hoo-ha is she's now suffered injuries, number one, hence the lawyers getting involved very quickly, I might add. And secondly, well, let's have a look at how and why this came about, right? Because this is not a normal occurrence that we see ceilings caving in and dropping on tenants. Obviously, the property is not livable, right? And it has to be repaired, but that's a separate issue. So how did this come about? Well, you and I weren't there. We don't know. We're not builders. We're not any particular consultants with specific skills. Yes. So we can't say definitively what happened. However, I can talk about what's been recorded or put out there in the story and published. So apparently the tenants had lodged complaints to the landlord via the managing agent. So a lot of rental properties have managing agents to manage the property for the owner. Now, I won't name the particular agency involved. They are up here at the north end because that I think goes against broadcasting laws anyway. I'm not going to, it could be seen as a plug. So I'm not going to, just to be safe. But they are mentioned in the story. So if you want to read the story yourself, you can find out who it is. And that's not saying it's their fault, but they do need to investigate. And I do understand that Slater and Gordon are now involved investigating this particular occurrence. So apparently there was a complaint lodged by the tenant over 8 months ago about a crack in the ceiling, right? And it was never attended to. Now, you're going to find, of course, there's going to be different versions from the owner to the managing agent. So the story, I think, says that the managing agent did obviously pass on the complaint to the owner, and the managing agent can only act with the instructions of the owner to a large extent. However, they've got their own obligations to manage the property properly and to use the monies that they hold for rent in relation to repairs and general maintenance of the property. But look, as to whether it was the owner not ignoring those complaints or the owner saying to the managing agent, we're not dealing with it right now, or we're getting quotes, either way, if it was 8 months, I think it's an extraordinary long time to leave that crack.
Well, and a drastic result too. You know, it's not every day that the ceiling falls in.
Exactly. And when you look at it, the picture, it looks like you can see a lot of plasterboard has fallen on the person, but there seems to be a lot of sand and it looks like a bit moist. Naturally, as you can imagine, logic says, well, if the ceiling's caved in, there must have been water there, which must have been come into the property in the ceiling from a storm. Over the last 8 months, we've had plenty of storms on the Gold Coast. So, and then you've seen this damage come in and you think, oh, that's horrendous. Water damage at some point, right, wasn't addressed, and cracking in the ceiling wasn't addressed. So I think this is a big wake-up call for landlords and managing agents to really take any complaints from tenants seriously. Now, I'm not saying that this agency didn't, because they are named in the article. What I'm saying is that this is a lesson for owners and managing agents, because now, of course, there will be a claim, if not already, by the tenant about the personal injuries. And there's an investigation about public liability claims to be made now against the landlord and the managing agent. And I would, if I was the managing agent, I'd want to have a very accurate and careful paper trail to document that the complaint came in, I notified the owner. Ignore, or the owner said this and we acted on it, or we didn't act on it. So this is just a reminder, managing agents, when you manage properties, you need to really document everything properly, follow up on complaints, make sure things are attended to, have someone come out, at least look at it and quote, which doesn't generally cost you anything to arrange for that to occur in the first instance. So I think this is a lesson, as I said, because, there are lots of properties you could think of that has water damage. Maybe this is a nightmare waiting to happen on other rental properties. Who knows?
And that's the problem, of course, if you leave something that might start small, if you leave it and it gets worse and worse and worse, and then you get to something like this.
And a reminder to renters, I think, as well, that if you notice something in your home, report it and
report it straight away.
And
that's right. And your rental agreement does say that there is an obligation on the tenant to notify the landlord via the agent, if that's the case, immediately of any changes to the property. So this person has sustained head, neck and back injuries and requiring pain medication and physiotherapy. So who knows if there's going to be psychological damage. They mentioned something here about anxiety, nightmares, sleeplessness now because of the event that occurred. So, one small thing could lead into something huge for you as an owner of a property. So be very, very careful.
Yeah, great advice there from Despina Priala from Priala Legal. And if anyone does want to get in touch with you directly, Despina, and ask a question in regards to the law, where can they go?
So they can phone the office 55291 294. They can reach out by email if that's your preference, info@prialalegal.com.au, and we'll do our best, as always, to answer any questions you have.
You're on the show every single Thursday on Talking Law.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Despina and Wayne.
We'll do it again next week.
Great. See you then, guys.
Bye-bye.
Are you confused about legal jargon? Do you need legal advice but don't know where to turn? Tune in to Talking Law with Despina Priala every Thursday morning at 8:30 on Radio 97. Despina, a leading lawyer with over 20 years of experience, will demystify the law and provide practical advice to help you navigate legal issues. Whether it's a family matter, a property dispute, or a business concern, Talking Law has got you covered. Don't miss out on this valuable resource. Tune in to Talking Law with Despina Priala every Thursday morning at 8:30 on Radio 97.